Welcome to another deep dive. We're cracking open the Book of Life today. Seems like everyone's on this whole self-knowledge quest these days.
Oh yeah, it's a classic for a reason, right?
Yeah.
This book dives deep though, like straight to the core of how self-knowledge is the foundation of, well, a lot. Freedom, love, even facing those tough parts of life.
Okay, you've definitely got my attention. From my quick look, this isn't some feel-good self-help thing. It feels more philosophical.
It is, and one of the first things that hits you is its take on authority. Not
Mhm.
just questioning the usual suspects like big institutions or teachers, but even those authorities we create within ourselves. Our experiences, our
Yes.
judgments.
Our own experiences, aren't those supposed to be the best lessons? Like, how could my own life be steering me wrong?
It's a wild concept. The Book of Life says we're all walking around with these filters in our minds, shaped by everything, upbringing, culture, those heartbreaks that stay with you. So we end up seeing the world, even ourselves, through those lenses without even knowing it.
Okay, I see where this untethered mind idea comes in, like you mentioned before.
Exactly. The book uses that term to describe breaking free. Imagine seeing things, a situation, even looking in the mirror with totally fresh eyes, no old stories playing in the background.
That sounds incredible, but honestly, kind of scary too. What if I don't like what I see without those filters?
That's the courage this book is talking about. But it's not about tearing ourselves down, right? It's about seeing clearly so we can build a life that actually fits who we really are.
Okay, I get that. But how do we even start untying our minds?
It gives a lot of practical advice, but it all comes back to self-knowledge. The more we truly get ourselves, the less power those unconscious patterns have over us, like turning on a light in a dark room.
Okay, let's flip that switch then. What does the Book of Life actually say about understanding ourselves?
Well, it jumps right into what the self even is, and that's where it gets fascinating. It describes the self as this bundle of ideas, memories, experiences, all those desires, always trying to grow and keep itself going.
So myself is almost like this separate thing with its own plans.
You could say that,
Yeah.
and the book doesn't soften it. It even says straight up, the self is an evil thing.
Whoa, okay. Intense much.
It's meant to get your attention, for sure. But context is key here. It's not saying we are evil. It's saying this self we construct, when it's all ego and needing to be separate, it can cause a lot of suffering for ourselves and everyone else.
So, like, my ego is the bad guy in my own life story.
You got it. And the book says a lot of our struggles, relationships, work, even just feeling at peace, come from this self, holding on tight to things, trying to protect itself, always needing to be right.
Okay, so if this ego-driven self is the problem, what's the fix?
That's where things get hopeful. The Book of Life points to love. It even says, when there is love, self is not.
Wait, hold up. Love just makes my ego poof, gone. Tell me more.
Well, it's not the romantic kind of love, or even just feeling love for or someone. The book goes deeper. It's talking about love as a state of being, a way of being in the world where that separation dissolves.
Okay, I'm gonna need you to break that down a bit. I'm more of a practical person. What does that kind of love even look like day to day?
That's the journey the Book of Life invites us on, to actually feel that shift from a self-centered view to one that's, well, bigger, more connected. It says that shift can happen through things like meditation, just by being more aware of our thoughts and actions all the time.
Definitely noticing a theme here. This awareness thing seems pretty central.
For sure. But it's not just about noticing, it's about questioning our beliefs too.
Mm.
And not just the big ones like religion or politics, but even those deep down beliefs about ourselves, about life, about what makes us happy.
So even beliefs I've had since I was a kid, those could be holding me back.
It's a possibility. The Book of Life suggests a lot of those beliefs come from fear, from needing to feel secure in a world that feels shaky. But holding on tight to those beliefs actually creates more separation, more suffering.
Wow, this book is flipping everything I thought I knew on its head.
That's the power of self-knowledge, right?
Yeah.
It can totally change how we see ourselves in the world. And this book lays out a map for how to start that journey.
Okay, I'm ready to hit the road. But before we move on, there's this one part that really stuck with me. It says, most of us are satisfied with authority because it gives us a continuity, a certainty, a sense of being protected. But a man who would understand the implications of this deep psychological revolution must be free of authority, must he not? What do you think that means?
It's powerful, right? And it ties into everything we've been saying. It's about the challenge of breaking free from needing those outside answers, whether it's a person, an institution, or even a book like this one.
So even the Book of Life is saying, don't just take my word for it.
Exactly. It's encouraging us to use its ideas as a starting point, but to find our own truth, our own understanding.
That's pretty radical. So where do we go from here? How do we actually live these ideas?
Well, that's what we'll get into next time. We'll explore the tools and strategies this book gives us for growing in self-knowledge, breaking free from those beliefs that hold us back, and experiencing how powerful love really is.
Can't wait. This is going to be quite a ride.
Picking up on that authority thing, what's interesting is how the Book of Life says we should even question, like, the authority of our own experiences.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around that one. Isn't experience the best teacher?
It can be, sure, but the book makes this point, that our past experiences can become these invisible cages. We start seeing everything through what's happened to us before, interpreting everything through that limited lens.
So it's like if I had a bad experience trusting someone, now I automatically assume everyone's going to let me down.
Yeah, perfect example. It shows how those experiences, even the tough ones, become a kind of authority that shapes how we approach life.
Makes total sense. I can see how that keeps us stuck, even when it's not good for us anymore.
Exactly. And that's why the book keeps coming back to this idea of an untethered mind, a mind that can see past those limits.
Okay, I like the sound of untethering, but how do we do that? Any practical tips in the Book of Life?
Lots of practices, but one that stands out is simply noticing those filters we're looking through. Like next time you have a strong reaction to something, just pause. Ask yourself, is this reaction really about what's happening right now, or is it my past experiences talking?
So, step back. Observe my thoughts, my feelings, before jumping to conclusions.
Exactly. That observation, that pause, it can create space to make different choices. Choices that fit who you are and not who you were before.
I like that. Giving ourselves permission to rewrite the story, choose a different ending.
That's a great way to put it. And that connects to another big theme from the Book of Life, this concept of suffering. It says that a lot of our suffering comes from clinging to those old stories, those old ways of being.
Okay, but how do we let go? It's one thing to know I'm holding on to something that hurts, but actually letting go feels impossible.
It's definitely not easy. And the book doesn't pretend it is. It really dives into desire and how even wanting things, even pleasurable things, can keep us trapped in that cycle of suffering.
Hold on, pleasure leads to suffering. Isn't the whole point of life to find pleasure and avoid pain?
That's what we're told, right? But the Book of Life makes a distinction between that fleeting kind of pleasure and true happiness. It says when we get attached to those temporary highs, we're setting ourselves up to suffer when they inevitably fade.
So it's like the more I chase those fleeting good times, the more I'm going to end up disappointed.
Exactly. Think of it like chasing a mirage in the desert. You think you're getting closer to this oasis, but it's an illusion. And the chase itself just makes you more exhausted, more thirsty.
I get the picture. So how do we break free? Does the book say we should become hermits, give up all the good stuff?
Not at all. It's not about denying ourselves joy or beauty. It's about understanding desire. Seeing that true happiness comes from somewhere deeper, a place that doesn't depend on what's happening around us or fleeting feelings.
Okay, so if we're not supposed to chase pleasure and we're not supposed to be like emotionless robots, what are we supposed to do? How do we find that lasting happiness?
Here's where it gets profound. The Book of Life says the path to true happiness is cultivating a simple and clear mind. It's about seeing things as they are, without our fears, our desires, all those preconceived ideas getting in the way.
A simple mind. My mind feels anything but simple. It's a constant stream of thoughts, worries, that never-ending to-do list.
I hear you. And the book acknowledges that our minds are naturally complex. But it's not about shutting those thoughts down or forcing ourselves into, like, an empty state. It's about being able to observe them without getting swept away.
And this is where that choiceless awareness comes in, right? Just noticing those thoughts, those feelings, without judging them.
Exactly. And the book says meditation's a powerful way to cultivate that awareness. But it emphasizes that meditation isn't about checking out of the world or trying to reach some blissed out state. It's about bringing that same awareness to everything you do.
So like being fully present when I'm washing dishes, talking to a friend, or even stuck in traffic.
Exactly. Bringing mindfulness to every part of life. So we're not just on autopilot, but responding consciously, intentionally.
This is starting to feel like a pretty big shift in perspective. Instead of trying to control everything, it's more about noticing, like watching clouds drift by.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And that shift from controlling to just observing can be incredibly freeing. It allows us to see things more clearly and make choices that line up with what we truly value.
Okay, so we've talked about untethering our minds, letting go of suffering, and even this idea of a simple mind. But there's still this big question hanging over everything, this whole concept of the self being an illusion.
Ah, yes, that's the core of it all. One of the most challenging but also most liberating ideas in this book. It suggests the self, how we usually experience it, isn't some solid, unchanging thing. It's more like a fluid, ever-changing collection of thoughts, beliefs, and experiences.
So who I think I am is really just a story I'm telling myself.
Exactly. And the book argues that when we cling too tightly to that story, we create a lot of suffering. It's like we're building a wall around ourselves, separating ourselves from others, from the world, even from who we truly are.
Yeah, the more I define myself rigidly, the less room there is for growth, for connection. But if the self is an illusion, what does that even mean for how I live? Do I just give up on goals, dreams?
It's not about giving those up. It's about recognizing that those goals, those dreams, they're not WHO you are. They're expressions of your potential. And when you let go of needing to define yourself so rigidly, you open up to so many more possibilities.
I'm starting to get a glimpse of that, but it's still pretty mind-blowing.
It is. But the Book of Life reminds us it's not a destination, it's a journey. Every step we take towards self-awareness, every time we choose love over fear, every moment spent cultivating a simple and clear mind, we're getting closer to experiencing that freedom, that wholeness the book talks about.
This has been intense, but so insightful. I'm ready to bring it down to earth a bit. How do we actually put all this wisdom into practice in our daily lives?
That's the question, isn't it? And that's what we'll explore in our final segment. We'll look at the practical ways the Book of Life suggests we can cultivate self-knowledge, navigate those tricky relationships, and live a life that's more in tune with who we really are.
Sounds good. I'm ready for some actionable takeaways. Okay, so back to reality. We've explored some seriously deep stuff about the self, suffering, and, love is the answer, all from the Book of Life. But how does all of this translate to, actually living my life?
That's the million-dollar question, right? The good news is the Book of Life doesn't just drop these big ideas on us and walk away. It actually gives us a lot of guidance for how to apply them, especially when it comes to relationships.
Makes sense. Relationships are kind of like the ultimate test, aren't they?
Totally. And the book reminds us that those interactions with others are like prime opportunities for learning about ourselves. Remember how we were talking about relationships being like mirrors?
Yeah, reflecting back who we really are, the good, the bad, the whole shebang.
Exactly. But instead of like getting all defensive or trying to avoid those reflections, the Book of Life says lean in. See those moments of like disagreement or tension as chances to learn something about yourself.
Okay, so next time I'm disagreeing with my partner, I should just stop and say, hold on, this is a self-reflection moment.
Maybe not with those exact words, but you get the idea. It's about bringing awareness to those interactions, asking yourself, what's pushing my buttons right now? Why am I reacting this way?
So instead of blaming them, I look inward, see what's happening inside of in me.
Precisely. It's not about taking on all the blame, but about recognizing that we always have a choice in how we respond. And understanding our own triggers, our patterns, helps us create healthier relationships.
That's huge. But what about compassion? The Book of Life talks a lot about that too, right? How does that fit in?
Compassion is essential, both for ourselves and the people we're close to. And the book suggests that real compassion starts with understanding. Understanding that everyone, including us, is carrying around their own baggage, wounds, fears, their own struggles.
So instead of judging someone for their behavior, try to see the pain or the fear that might be behind it.
Exactly. And the book reminds us that offering compassion doesn't mean we have to agree with everything someone does. It's about recognizing their humanity, even when we don't like their choices.
There's a subtle difference there. I can still set boundaries, hold someone accountable, but also recognize that they're doing the best they can with what they know.
Perfectly put. And that same compassion applies to ourselves too, right? We all mess up. We all have those moments where we aren't our best selves. The Book of Life encourages us to meet those moments with kindness,
Yeah.
understanding, instead of beating ourselves up about it.
So basically, treat ourselves the way we would treat a good friend.
Exactly. And the book makes this point that self-compassion is crucial for growth. It creates this safe space for us to admit our flaws, learn from those mistakes, and keep moving forward on this journey of self-discovery.
It's all starting to feel less like abstract and more like something I can actually do. Instead of trying to reach some perfect state of, I don't know, enlightenment, it's about those small choices we make every day, every moment.
That's it. That's the essence of it. The Book of Life reminds us transformation isn't some one-time event, it's an ongoing process. And every time we choose awareness over just reacting, compassion over judgment, connection over being isolated, we're taking a step closer to freedom, to love, to that expanded way of being that the book describes.
It's like we're constantly creating the story of our lives one thread at a time. And all those little choices, those moments of awareness, they add up to something really beautiful, something meaningful.
I love that analogy. And it shows we're not doing this alone. We're all connected, and every choice we make, every act of kindness, every time we're truly present, it has a ripple effect on the world around us.
It's inspiring and a little intimidating all at the same time, you know? It makes you realize how much power each of us actually has.
It does. And the Book of Life really leaves us with this feeling of hope, possibility. It reminds us that we aren't stuck, we aren't limited by our past, we aren't defined by our mistakes. We can change, we can grow, we can become more loving, more compassionate, more free.
This deep dive has been such a great reminder of that. Thank you so much for guiding us through all these amazing ideas.
It's been my pleasure. And remember, the journey of self-discovery never really ends. The Book of Life is a great companion, but the real wisdom, it's inside each of us.
And to you, our listener, keep exploring, keep asking questions, keep diving deep. You never know what you might find within yourself and within this crazy, beautiful, ever-changing adventure we call life.
Until next time, keep seeking.
Keep growing!